The opinions expressed in this program are not those of CISA 7 or Time Warner Cable.
What's your tomorrow?
We have a little bit different agenda tonight, so I just want to make it clear what we're doing. We have a special board meeting. Normally we have our regular work session meeting tonight that starts at 5:30. I have two people that want to speak to us in the open forum, and rather than make them wait till the whole entire budget discussion until our work session meeting starts, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to do the human resources and the business and finance agenda. I'm assuming that will take us until at least 5:30, and that way if there's anyone else who wants to speak, and they show up, between now and 5:30, they'll still have a chance to speak. So if that's okay with the board, do we need a motion on that?
No,
Okay.
just to agree to suspend the rules.
Okay, all right, so we'll do that. We have all 7 board members present at the table. We're also joined by Dr. Michelle Langenfeld on my left and Sandy Heller, our board secretary. And we have 2 intercity student council members, Priyanka Navani, who's the president and attends Preble, and Maria Fiscal, who is a West High School student. So welcome, and feel free to join in our conversation, and whenever you have questions or things you feel you want to add, you're welcome to do that. So I will start then with the human resources agenda, and I'll entertain the first motion.
I move that the resignation of Kyle Ransom, principal at Washington Middle School, effective September 26, 2013, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Any questions? Sandy?
Jeffries?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next motion?
I move that the resignations as listed be approved.
Sandy?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Second, thanks.
Maloney?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next motion?
Move that the leaves of absence as listed be approved.
Second.
Any questions? Sandy?
Blacka?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next motion?
I move that the employment of staff as listed be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next motion?
I move that the transfer of Travis Lips, Associate Principal, Washington Middle School, 11 months at a salary of $84,002, salary group 9, 92nd percentile, to interim middle school principal at Washington Middle School, 12 months at a salary of $95,099, salary group 6, 92nd percentile, prorated to $86,437 for the 2013-14 school year, effective October 8th, 2013, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. And I don't know, I didn't see Travis, he's not here, okay. Next motion?
I move that the transfer of Courtney Keene, Language Arts at East High School, 10-month teacher at a salary of $48,594 to interim high school associate principal at Preble High School, 11 months at a salary of $81,488. Group 6, 86th percentile prorated to $64,026 effective October 14th, 2013, as presented, be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Wagner,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Franz,
Aye.
Jeffries,
Aye.
Blackout,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Carried 7-0.
And
And I
maybe
know
we should just-
Courtney's here.
Maybe we should just briefly explain who this replaces, because that person went over to another school, and I think maybe it'd be helpful for the public to explain that.
Courtney.
Courtney's here.
Courtney's
so
here.
Yes.
You recognize?
Congratulations, Courtney.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
Courtney.
And then maybe Mr. Smith?
Sure. Courtney Keene is replacing Jim Van Abel, who transferred from Preble High School to Lombardi Middle School as a result of the transfer from Ann Barsh at Lombardi Middle School to Educator Effectiveness Implementation Coordinator. So that's the reason why Courtney's here.
All right.
On behalf of the Preble student body, welcome.
That's good. All right, next motion?
Transfer of staff as listed be approved.
Second.
Sandy?
Blackout,
Aye.
Franz,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Jeffries,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Next we'll move to business and finance, and I will entertain the first motion.
I move that the offer to purchase the property located at 139 South Monroe Avenue for $265,000 as presented be approved.
Second.
And did you want to say anything, or?
Well, and again, I think we spent a lot of time working with the city, helping us procure or be able to purchase this site, and again, looking for other monies out there that would be possible in the future to offset the cost.
And I think we should explain to the public what it's for.
Yeah, I was, okay.
I mean, it will be for the academic.
School for the academically gifted.
School for the academically
Yes.
gifted.
And we are approving the purchase price, not the renovation
Correct.
Correct.
at this point.
Chris?
Thank you. I think this is a far-sighted move by the district and by the city. I think it's a win-win on both ends to help our community and, more importantly, our gifted and talented students in our area, not just Green Bay District, but our entire area.
And it's obviously a long-time elementary school, so it's perfectly suited for our purposes.
Go ahead.
I think the piece as we look to ensure that every child is college, career, and community ready on a continuum is really critical. And we already know that there's a significant wait list, and we believe that it will grow and grow. We've already had significant increase, and as Dr. Wagner spoke to the fact that we have enrollment from inside the district, obviously students, but also drawing from outside the district. And I agree, I think it is a win-win for the community. The very fact that you're refurbishing a school to be a school, I think, is essential and critical to the vibrancy of our community as well.
And that we've run out of room at Langlade
And
Elementary.
we have
where the
run out of
school now
room.
is. Yes.
That's accurate as well.
And also looked at other sites already existing that we do not have the room to put a whole school into. And we're at capacity at Langlade, and actually will be bigger than some of our elementaries in numbers, so.
All right. Sandy?
Jeffries,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Warren,
Aye.
Blackout,
Aye.
Franz,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Carried 7-0. And I just want to say I'm very excited about the endeavor, the working together with the city to make this school a special place for academically gifted kids. And I think it's a population that tends to be underserved in districts, and I think that's apparent with the fact that 30% of the students in that program at Langlade actually come from outside of our district. And we had 2 families that actually moved from outside of our community into our district so that their children could attend that school. So it's a very great need for our students, and I think it's a very exciting project that we're embarking on, and I have great faith that it will be very successful.
And thanks to the mayor for being here and sharing in this announcement.
Thank you. Very exciting.
I think it's very good for the downtown.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did you want to say something? Ricky wants to say something.
Did you want to say anything?
Well, I want to thank you for your vote of confidence tonight on the Green Bay School District and with this building at 139. The city secured an option on this some time ago, and we're working with the school district for this gifted and talented school, along with Terry, the principal, and in anticipation of this vote, and I want to thank you again for that. We're making some inroads on Monroe, right? We took the body shop down, we purchased the homes on the corner of Chicago and Monroe. The road's going to be redone. We've got decorative lighting coming in. It's going to be a place to be, like all your schools, to be very proud of this facility. I'm committed to helping with more community support, both financially and politically, to make this just a terrific school for the gifted and talented, as all of your schools are in the district. So I thank you for your support, and I think we're going to schedule something for the public tomorrow, and that's up to you. But that would really take the lead on that right now, and we have a press conference scheduled tomorrow in front of the school at 12:30. We have the option on it, right? We transfer that to the school district as well, and then be your school for $265,000 with a commitment from us again for politically and financially to raise the private sector to help offset some of the costs.
You could just get rid of all of those orange cones, Jeff. Thanks.
Very good.
Travis is here now.
Oh.
I'm gonna see him.
And Mike just pointed out that Travis is here. We already voted on you, Travis. But congratulations.
Undercover volleyball.
Yeah, that's all right. Congratulations, and
Thank you.
good luck this year. We know you'll do a good job. So, all right. I will entertain the second motion under business and finance.
I move that the offer to purchase a property located at 2430 Finger Road for $395,000 as presented be approved.
Second.
All right.
And as we've reviewed this purchase, we've had a good meeting. We talked about how we should be able to recoup all the dollars that we're spending on the property over 2 years as we move students from areas where we rent buildings currently right now to relocate them to this building. And again, within 2 years, we should have the building paid for.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think it's great, the work that, again, looking ahead into the future. I think this moving our programs into one building like this not only improves the services that we can give to our students, but it's something that we can do that isn't in the long run going to cost us money, because we're going to immediately, within 2 years, recoup the money that we're spending. So to me, it's a win-win for the district and the students.
May I add?
Yes.
For the general public also, that this is moving students who are behaviorally challenged from 3 different sites to one site, and separating the students with mental health issues away out of that program into a program where we can hopefully bring more services from the community in to help them with their issues. And it just seems like a better fit for both programs.
Just as a follow-up, you've been working with the county. Is that accurate, Claudia?
We're
pursue more
having the
resource?
conversations to move forward with them, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Sandy?
Becker?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye.
Warren?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. And that concludes the business and finance. I'll now move to, before we start our budget discussion, I will move to an open forum. And do what? Oh, yeah. We'll create a spot. First, I'd like to call Richard Carlstead.
Sandwich in
there?
Yep.
Okay, that sounds good.
And Rich, you know this, but state your name and address. And
Yes.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Richard Carlstead, 1640 Dancing Dunes Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin. In the interest of keeping comments brief and also acknowledging that Alan hasn't had time to officially review the budget with the public, I'll make some comments from what I picked up off the website. And to say in reviewing the budget that I was not shocked would be a great understatement. I'd like to ask the board to take out a pencil or pen and write this down, if you wouldn't mind. But looking at the property tax levy on page 20 shows an increase of 8.6%. What I forgot to include in my introduction is I'm a member of the Brown County Taxpayers Association and I'm on the schools committee. I think this is an incredible increase. Now I realize in looking at the documents that the district will say that some bond debt has been paid down and therefore you can use the debt service money that won't be spent and use it in the general fund, and I find that not really an acceptable answer. On page 21, you're going to see the levy detailed where it went from 64,500,000 roughly to over 70 million, an 8.6%. And when we look down at the bottom of the page of 21, you'll notice salaries are up 10.25%. 10.25% in 1 year for the salary budget. Page 26, I'd like to point out, if I can get my paper separate. When we look at further details of expenditures, you're looking at teacher salaries going up 5.3%. I realize the district has added staff members, added teachers, but it's 5.3. But then when we look at management and professional salaries, we're seeing a 15.5% increase in the budget. I just like the board to really look at these numbers. These are not something to disregard. And then lastly, on part of the Brown County taxpayers, you know, we've talked about the community service fund, so I'd like to make a comment. On behalf of the taxpayers, we do not oppose spending taxpayer funds on these activities that you've associated with community service. Some may be worthwhile, but we do oppose the budgetary practices that violate state law and the DPI's interpretation of the law. As taxpayers, we deserve to be represented by public servants who will follow the law enacted by the people. Wisconsin Statute 120.13, Section 19, states that the Community Service Fund can only be spent on programs, quote, outside the regular curricular and extracurricular programs, unquote. The Department of Public Instruction has interpreted this to mean that fund expenditures must meet 4 requirements: be outside the usual instructional program, be open to everyone in the community, be fee supported, and directly related to the activity. That would be fee supported, directly related. These guidelines come directly from Jerry Landmark, Assistant Director at the DPI. So far, what you have disclosed to the DPI and in your budget is very vague as community fund expenditures. But from what you have shown, there are several serious legal issues. For example, you claim to spend $630,000 on middle school after-school programs, which will be spent on athletics. According to DPI, student activities such as interscholastic athletics may not be funded by the community program. this would be a violation. You claim to spend over $1.2 million on school resource officers. In fact, over 25% of the entire community fund budget will be spent on salaries and benefits for employees. But according to the DPI, these positions would have to be outside the normal school hours, in addition to performing activities that are open to everyone in the community. We are encouraged that you have agreed to move the equity coordinator, homeless coordinator, early childhood coordinator, and public information office out of Fund 80 and to the general fund. This is what the law requires. However, this move is an admission that you have been illegally funding these programs for years, which we have told you in the past. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, Rich. Next, I would call up Brian Mills.
Hi, mine does not have to do with the budget. Is that okay at this point?
Yes.
So, all right. My name is Brian Mills. I live at 3464 Gulf Drive, Green Bay. I'm a special education teacher at Washington. And since I was here, I wanted to tell you about a couple of things that we're doing in our building that are coming up. I sent an email to a lot of you. Washington Middle School is going to host their first chess tournament, which is going to be hopefully well attended. It's October 26th. It's on a Saturday. It's going from 8:30 until 3-ish. And we've been doing a really good job of promoting it to a lot of our elementary schools. So we've got some flyers going home in their Tuesday folders, and we've been talking to a lot of other school districts just to kind of build what's happened at Sullivan before and expand chess and the board game stuff throughout the district. So hopefully we get a lot of people there into our building. And then we also have on the same day, which I was thrilled about when I saw that they were the same day, WEAC and Student WEA is going to be doing their Outreach to Teach program at Washington and one of the elementary schools, where they come in and they're doing some renovation and facelift stuff and just getting some people in the building. So if you're free, stop by our building, and you don't need to know anything about chess. So
Mr. Becker is our resident chess expert.
he was the first email I sent. So,
Yes.
so thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Brian. All right, then we will move to the budget discussion on our agenda. And Dr. Langenfeld will start with some opening remarks.
Thank you. As we think about this year's budget, I think the students here in the Green Bay area public schools have more learning opportunities and additional supports thanks to the Board of Education's decision to invest in expanding learning opportunities and adding innovative programs for our students. I think these are very strategic investments, some of them one-time investments, obviously, but they're aligned to the district's strategic directions and are intended to increase student achievement while working to address and decrease the achievement gap. I think in addition, the strategic investments afford students the choice of multiple pathways to personal success, thus ensuring the district's mission of college, career, and community ready for each and every student in the Green Bay area public schools. And I want to share just for the general public some examples of the investments that the board has chosen to make. Currently, we are a K-12 International Baccalaureate district where we have IB at Chapel Elementary, Franklin Middle, and West High School. We have doubled the number of students, I think even more, at the John Dewey Academy for Learning. We have expanded the Spanish immersion to include Baird, Dans, Jackson, and Wilder Elementary. We are in process of Phase 2 at East High School Institute for the Fine Arts, which is an expansion of the program from music to now the visual arts. And we're also expanding violin and piano beginning in grade 2 and integrated arts at Webster Elementary. We have, of course, we discussed a little bit earlier, the K-8 Gifted and Talented Academy. And we're also developing extraordinary partnerships through investments, technology education partnership with Southwest High School and the Technical College, 4K at multiple sites to address the growing needs of our 4K students, and also the extraordinary opportunity for the out-of-doors child, the 4K at the Wildlife Sanctuary. And then I think a partnership that really is extraordinary, that reflects college, career, and community, is our partnership with the Technical College and Habitat for Humanity and NeighborWorks, where we have students from West High School and Preble High School who are both with Habitat building homes and learning how to do that through construction, trades, and architecture, and also renovating homes, affording, giving back to our community. They'll be moving those properties to community members as well. In addition, we have a host of interventions and resource being put into interventions, including interventionists who are helping to move the mandated response to intervention that has to become law coming up here. And obviously with the rollout and expansion of technology, the technology integration staff who is working tirelessly with staff, as well as being able to afford students the right tools to ensure that they are 21st century learners and beyond. Now, some of these strategic investments were made possible through Microsoft dollars, obviously energy projects, a number of grants, and other spending efficiencies as well, and I'm sure they'll be reflected when Alan speaks to that as well. So, those are my remarks.
Thank you. And next we'll move to the overview that Alan Wagner will do.
Just make sure I don't press the red button.
You may disappear.
Again, this is the PowerPoint for the 13-14 proposed budget. Just a brief overview of where we are, where we're going, before we get into the budget document. Our financial condition, at the end of last school year, we had a budget surplus of $2.8 million. It increased our fund balance to $41.4 million, which is 19.5% of our general fund expenditures. And as we continue to do our short-term borrowing every year, which will continue to occur, we've been at that $10 million mark for the last 2 years. Probably 5-6 years ago, we were borrowing $28 million for our cash flow borrowing. And again, our bond rating is the second highest ranking. Bond rating is important from the aspect of when you do have to incur debt, you will pay a lower interest rate the better your bond rating is. Revenue limits, again, it determines the amount the district can raise through state aid and property taxes. If we look at this current year's budget, it was a revenue limit increase of $75 per student in 2013-14, which will provide for us a $1.5 million of additional revenue. Along with that revenue limit increase, the governor again had a categorical aid increase of $75 per student in 2013-14. Normally that would provide us an additional $1.5 million. But as we know, as we talked to the Joint Finance Committee, that $75 increase is offset by the $50 decrease in last year's. We had a $50 increase in last year's budget, last school year. It did not continue. So adding the 75, we're losing the 50. It's a net of $25 per student, and it only provides us with a $500,000 of additional revenue. So from the governor's budget, we are looking at $2 million of additional revenue. And again, for 2013-14, again, because our property value per student is low, and that's how you determine your general aid, we are going to see a $4.6 million increase in our equalized state aid, which does allow us to maintain that flat levy amount. For 2013-14, when I do the budget, it's based on the 4 instructional budgets: the general fund, special education, Head Start, and the Indian Ed program. Our budget for this year is $252.7 million, and that will be the same amount for expenditures as it will be for the revenues, so we will have a balanced budget. If we look at our projected revenue, Again, our state revenue is always the greatest revenue we have within the district, $152 million. Our property tax revenue, around $70 million. Federal revenue, which would be mainly our Title I and our other federal programs, $23 million, and other revenue is $7.2 million. And from a percentage side, the state picks up 60.3% of our costs. The federal government, 9.2%, property tax, 27.7%, and the remainder is other 2.8%. If we look at our expenditures for the 13-14 budget year, our expenditures are $252.7 million. And you see that based on our last year's budget, that is an increase of $14.7 million over last year's budget. And we know there are a number of items that makes that up. We talked about the energy projects. The energy projects are going to be over $4 million. That will increase both revenue and expenditures. We have an increase in our Title I program of over $3 million. That will be, again, additional revenue and additional expenditures. We are also looking at the purchase of the 2 buildings that we purchased tonight and the renovation of the Gifted and Talented School is within this budget. And again, that would be another $1.3 million. So when you see the $14.7 million increase, there's a lot of separate items that are increasing that amount that I just went through. And again, the revenues are at the same amount, 252.7. And again, part of the revenue increases Title I. The exemption is also going to be part of a revenue increase, and we're also going to have increases in other revenues as well. The projected expenditures for this year, again, salaries and benefits are going to be the largest portion of our budget. Transportation is the big chunk of our purchase services, the $32.2 million. Supplies are $9.4 million. Capital expenditures, which will include equipment and the renovation of our buildings, will be $10.4 million, and the other is $1.1 million. And again, the expenditures by type, salaries are 56%, benefits are 23.1%. You're looking at a total of 79% for your salaries and fringes. And in this case, normally it has been 80 or more. But because of all the other expenditures, we're in other areas that are increasing, the percentage of salaries and benefits has actually reduced. Purchase services, 12.7%. Supplies, capital, other, round out the rest of the expenditures. If we look at expenditures by program, we can see that of all of our expenditures, 59.4%, almost 60% of all of our total costs have to do with instruction in the classroom. The school administration would be the administration, the principal costs, the clerical costs at the schools themselves. Pupil support would be items such as social workers, guidance counselors, psychologists. It would also include new knower supervisors and monitors. The operations would be the areas such as facilities and accounting and business services and technology, those type of areas. Transportation is, of course, just our transportation for our busing for all of our students, and the other is 6.1%. If we do a breakdown just on the instructional area, regular instruction is 59.3% of total instruction. Career and tech ed is 3.7%. Special education is our second largest area of 23.8%. Student activities and athletics are 4.3%. And other special needs, which would include the ELL program, is at 8.9%. Our 2013-14 proposed tax levy. While the general fund levy is increasing, the debt service fund is decreasing. And the community service fund is at the same amount as it was last year. With those three totals, it totals the budget, the levy amount will be $80,572,525. And that is the levy amount that it has been for the past 2 prior years, and it would also be the levy amount for this year. So we would have no levy increase for the 2013-14 school year. And the reason the general fund levy is going up is because of the energy exemption. The energy exemption will add to the general fund tax levy, but will also provide us dollars to do the energy projects. And because the debt service fund, which was at 13 million last year, is going down to 7.7 million, the increase of the general fund is offset by the decrease in the debt service fund, and that's why we are at the same tax levy amount, $80,572,525. And along with that, we will have $4.5 million of energy projects that we can do without having an increase to the tax levy. The tax levy history, again, it got to the point where, 1990 all the way through 96 until that's when the state went to 2/3 funding, is where you see that dip at 1997. And again, our levy has been increasing over the last 10 or 12 years. The last 3 years, our levy has been totally flat. And again, part of that has to do with, again, equalized aid increases. We've been fortunate to get those increases, and we'll continue to get those increases based on our property value per student. Our long-term debt retirement, right now we have debt that's going out 8 years. And our payments, while there is a large amount in 2015, we will actually be levying this year for some of those payments, because we levy 1 year behind, because we don't get our tax levy until January 1st. So we have to levy for this April and October of the next calendar year is what we budget for our levy, because we will get the tax dollars in January, and then we'll have money to pay April and October. So the amount that we pay in debt each year is different than the amount that we levy. It's one of those scary things for a fiscal person in a school district to make sure that you levy the forward amount and not the current year's actual amount, because there have been instances where that has happened and it doesn't turn out well, especially for the business person. The 2013 projected tax rate, for the first time in 5 years, we are projecting a 2% property value increase. Based on the numbers that the Department of Revenue has put out, we have had 4 straight years of our property value decrease. And this is the first, again, a 2% increase for this next year. Our tax rate is going down from $10.39 per thousand to $10.19. So there will be a 20-cent decrease per thousand on the tax bills, and again, it's a 1.9% decrease. So after seeing it going up 4 straight years in a row because of there being the decrease in the values, it's actually, we will actually see an increase in the values and a lower equalized tax rate. And hopefully this will be a trend now that will go forward, because that would mean we have housing happening. We certainly have an area of vacant land on the east side, and we would hope to see that we would start seeing families again building homes in Green Bay. Our equalized tax rate history, again, that amount went down tremendously in 1997 when we went to the 2/3 funding. It had been going down for a while, but now we see a stretch where it's been going up, and part of that again has to do with the property valuations continuing to decrease. As you can see, it increased in 1 year, and you can see that in 2014 our tax rate is actually going to go down. Other considerations: the final equalized aid certification, we will not know the final aid amount until October 15th. We will not know the actual final equalized property values. The September student count figures, we are looking at an increase of 410 students for this school year. you know, we may lose a few students as we continue to sift through and make sure kids have shown up and were in attendance. And that would be versus the 373 student increase we had last year. So again, we've had 2 years with pretty high increases in our students, and certainly in the revenue limit formula. Because it's over 3 years, you don't get that full advantage of those big increases, but they will follow through the system, and we will provide us some additional revenues in the next couple of years. The 2014-15 budget, and again, for next year, for the 14-15 budget, we should see additional revenues of $3 million because, and that's based on it comparing to this year, because we will have a $75 increase in the revenue limit per student and a $75 increase in the categorical aid. You know, we still have lost that $50 per student this year. We would look at programs and staffing and determine efficiencies. Again, we would look at the early creation of possible revenue enhancement expenditure reduction proposals. We have dates already have come out from the superintendent to plan to have budget meetings that are already planned. Again, looking to protect student programs. The budget process will begin as we speak, and hopefully maybe this year, the budget approval will be in June 2014. I haven't given up on that yet. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions on the PowerPoint, or otherwise I look forward to looking at the budget document.
Any questions on PowerPoint? All right. Then this is our time as a board to deliberate. We can also ask Alan specific questions about the budget document. So I would open it up to the board for questions.
You want to go page by page?
I mean, a lot of what's in here has been covered.
Right.
Why don't we, instead of going page by page, let's just do it in chunks so that we're not bouncing from the front of the budget to the back of the document. Does
Sure,
that
and then if
sound-
people could just give us a page reference.
Yeah, so why don't we look at, pages 1 through 10. Does anybody have questions on those? Just picking them. Chris?
Not a question initially, but a comment. I do appreciate the way this is put together for us, the public. It's much more transparent, easier for people to understand. With that said, on page 1, it's Green Bay Area Public School District, and in there, and I realize it's on the map, it shows what areas besides the city of Green Bay are part of our district. My thoughts would be it could also be here, not for now perhaps, but next year, what areas besides the city of Green Bay are actually part of our school district? And because it would be more than 106,000. You have 106,000 residents on that page. That's
I see what you're
approximately the
saying.
city of Green Bay, but not
Yeah.
Alloway, Bellevue,
Yeah.
Yes.
et cetera,
Alloway,
et cetera.
Bellevue,
God. Yeah.
Green Bay.
Yeah. Good point. So we'll do that. I'll make note.
Anyone else? I actually have a question to, on page, well, it's in multiple pages, but page 9, there's the pie section that refers to other. And can you just give I know there's a lot of things in there. Can you just give a couple examples of what kinds of things would end up in the other category?
One of them would be, let's see, that's expenditures. District's dues and fees, employee dues and fees, insurance adjustments, property tax refunds. Not a whole lot.
Okay, all right. I was just curious, because if you'd asked me, I wouldn't be able to tell you. All right.
That's my question
Chris?
too.
On page 8, at the bottom, maybe I'm not reading it correctly, but general fund was 1.7 million underspent mainly due to health claims being 5.5 million under budget. Then it said the special ed fund was underspent by $4.4 million due to lower health claims and due to salaries being underspent. It just seemed like such a large amount out of special ed with health claims are not being spent. I don't.
Well, and again, it depends on what expenditures are, you know, if we've overspent more in the general fund, it's not gonna have the same effect as it is in the special education fund.
Well, it seems like so much was found in special ed for health benefits. It just, I don't quite understand.
Part of, and just knowing here is like, part of the reason the special ed being so far underspent, other than health insurance, was that because of the maintenance of effort, the MAGIC MOE, we did move expenditures from the district portion to the federal portion. So it probably should have been in here that it would be not only the lower health claims, well, I guess it does, and due to salaries, and due to salaries being spent due to maintenance of effort calculations. Because I know we moved quite a bit of dollars from the district to the IDA program last year.
Chris?
On page 9, and I think it's a rhetorical question here, or comment. We're at 18%, talking about general fund balance. And as a board, I think we said it should be at least 15. So I think as a board, we might have to have a discussion. We want to keep it, let it go back down to 15, which the ramifications are then you have to borrow more, or leave it at 18, or even increase it so we don't borrow at all. I don't know. It's just something to think about.
All right, let's go from page 11 to 20. Mike?
Page 12, we are, salary and benefits obviously up 16.3 million, addition of 78.6 positions, including 65 teachers. We break that down further, Alan, where they are. I mean, obviously we're up almost 800 students in the last 2 years, which is good because obviously that brings in more revenue. And obviously when you increase students, you have to increase staff. But can you break that down further for us?
Yeah, based on the spreadsheet that I received from HR, there were 34 elementary teachers. There were 10 secondary regular ed teachers. We also had that additional 5 technology integrators, where we went from 4 to 9. We also had 10 for the RTI program, 10 additional teachers. And I believe we had 6 additional special education teachers.
Can I add?
Yes, go ahead.
A couple comments. I think one of the pieces as we look forward is the elementary teachers, we've seen some significant increases. And I think what the public and folks need to know is that it's not a tidy formula. For example, in some of our schools, we have a class size that we're trying to maintain. Obviously, it is a board policy and we can't go over. So we run some interesting class sizes in some of our schools. Let's say, for example, we have 28 students enroll in a certain grade level, but the policy and range puts this over. And then it's a question of looking at actually more carefully who the students are in the class and if we can and should be breaking those class sizes apart, particularly at that K2 level. And so that was one of the pieces. Obviously, significant increase in enrollment. If you figure a ratio of about 1 to every 25 students, and you've got an increase of 400 plus and 800 in the last couple of years, you start to see where that is a need as well. The other piece, and I think you spoke to that, the response to intervention piece, which is a federal mandate required, those are your interventionists that we are putting in place this year. And again, one of the reasons that we're already starting the budget process is the recognition that there are even more mandates that we have to follow with educator effectiveness, and looking at how we will be able to deliver those mandates as required by law, to make sure that we are within the framework of that law without, often these mandates, they so generously come to us and with very good intention, but they don't provide additional dollars. With educator effectiveness, there are dollars to do some training with staff, but there are no additional dollars to do the work. And so that's why you're seeing some significant numbers. And again, because we want to be fiscally responsible, we are actually going through the budget process and beginning that right now. And I believe Sandy already set up some meetings for us, because as these trends continue, obviously great concern, and we may have to come back and have conversation with the board about class size policy, because it's got to come from somewhere, folks. And right now, if we're trying to balance it all, but again, I think in our conversations, obviously the ultimate goal is to not raise any taxpayer dollars and balance the budget. And we've been able to do that with this budget, but as we move forward, this trend could continue if there are more mandates that come.
I've got a couple.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of follow-ups on the staffing. First is on our SAGE school. What do we have, 8 SAGE schools?
We have.
Me on the spot.
10, I believe.
Okay, on our SAGE school, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the guidelines for class size for K-3 used to be 15, you could go up to 18 with appeal. Then the state said, all right, it's 18, but that's it, no appeal, you can't go over. Have we had to do some adjusting in classes because of the solid 18 that we're now limited to?
Yes, we have looked at our numbers. We have looked at our numbers. I was just writing down the schools so I could check on the number of schools. We have, we are all compliant in all of our SAGE classrooms. We did look at staffing, and we did look at creative solutions to making sure we were compliant with our numbers. For example, we may have had a SAGE team and you have 2 teachers and can only have 30 students. Right. If we could separate them into 2 separate classrooms, we could now go up to 36, so we'd have 18 and 18. We did do some of those types of problem-solving strategies to, again, be fiscally responsible and maximize all of our student numbers.
Now, I know a lot of our
space.
A lot of our SAGE schools though don't have a lot of room. Is it been difficult finding another classroom for those kids?
We have, yes, we are overcrowded, and we have been very creative in looking at all of the different resources, including creating teams and not creating teams to address the staffing.
Okay, then I have a question about our priority school, Fort Howard. We are significantly adding hours of instruction, which adds obviously costs. We're getting some financial assistance from the state and the feds for that, correct? Where is the additional staff expenses reflected in here?
I mean, they are in the salary amount.
Okay.
The title staff are in that. They are in the salary amounts.
Okay, because I mean, I think the public should know that, because how many hours of instruction are we adding this year?
We're adding 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, but then several weeks at the end of this.
And then into June, correct. We'll go
Okay.
all of June.
And obviously, we have to pay staff for the additional time, so that, again, but that's offset by money we're getting
Grant
from the state.
dollars.
So,
Correct, that's
okay, I
Title
just
I
want,
priority
because
school
that
money.
kind of increases a lot of our expenses with all those additional, I mean, how many total hours are we adding at
Yeah.
Fort Howard this year?
I have the number, and I know it's, again, 30 minutes a day, and then
Yep.
the additional days in June. I do
Okay.
not have that number
Okay.
locked in here, I
Well,
apologize.
it'd be 191 days times 30, right?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So that's
Divided by 2.
60 some,
Right, divided by
Well, because it's an hour.
If you go by hours, it would be,
Instead of minutes.
190
Right.
divided by 2, right.
Yeah.
And then the additional
And then the
days in
additional 2
June
weeks.
as
Right,
well.
I thought it said
Okay.
135
It's,
hours. That's
we're
what I
looking at how to build capacity up to 300, and I know it's
Yeah.
under, I know it's under
Yeah.
the 300, looking at the requirements of not starting school before a certain date and not extending beyond. They're looking at the state level on how to make that happen, because we need to be done by the end of June and are not able to start prior to September 1st, so we're looking at ways to get those hours.
And I know that's one of the things actually at WASB is looking at that as a lobbying effort at our Policy and Resolutions Committee 2 weeks ago, where I think we're putting forward a resolution to adjust that September 1st. And actually, I brought our priority school up as an example, saying we need more flexibility to get those hours in. So that's something that we're working on.
Just as a follow-up with that too, I think the public should note that these additional requirements are part of a federal mandate as well through the ESEA waiver. The other thing too is, as we look to implement the Common Core state standards and prepare for smarter balanced assessments, you probably will recall that we had to add some additional time for teachers in mathematics to do the bridge classes at secondary, at the high school. And again, some additional teachers during this transition time to ensure that our students, we've ramped up the mathematics at secondary. And so that's why you'll see some increase in the secondary piece as well, both for the bridge class and then obviously in this whole focus to also do intervention, because some of the students weren't prepared for the rigor. And so we needed to add some additional remediation as well in mathematics. So you're seeing an increase in some of the secondary positions. So there are some of these positions, again, we're starting this conversation early to see. I mean, some of them will go away, but some of them are to build capacity. Some, that you start to look at the mandates as they unfold, and we have to address them by law. And you'll see some increase, but we also have significant increase in student enrollment, so.
So Terry, that 300 additional hours must be done by 2014-15 school year, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The original requirement was 300 hours, and then in working with the state, that was not possible with the current time, so they adjusted the hours, and we are working towards building that.
Yeah, I think, what are we doing, 150 this year?
150 this year.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And the number of SAGE sites is 10. I did that.
10, all right, thank you.
Nicely done.
All right, we're still 11 to 20. Andrew, go ahead.
I guess this probably fits as good of a place here as any to talk about salaries. Obviously, no one's getting a 5.3% raise, and hopefully that's not how it's going to be presented in the public by anybody. When we have the, I guess, can you talk about the fact that how are we accounting for a potential staff raise in here, and if the board were ultimately to feel slightly different in one direction or the other, where would that shake out in the budget process in the end?
The additional amounts are in the budget that were discussed.
So then if the board were making any adjustments from that, then that would just be hammered out between now and the final adoption?
Yeah, and changes could be made right up until the date that we adopt the budget.
Okay. And then, I guess I'll also put this out there. Are we, have we now, have we ended because I don't want to vote for a budget that contains it, have we ended the practice of having people be LTEs just indefinitely?
Yes, our LTEs are 1 year.
Okay.
They're generally for leave of absences that we've approved.
Okay.
And in some cases, after a certain period of time in September, like around the third Friday, we hire LTEs, because if we overhire, we have to do non-renewals. And we may do some of those because we did hire more teachers under regular contract this year because we needed to do that to recruit them, as well as we felt that there might be permanent positions. It's very difficult if you want to fill a tech ed position, for example, to offer an LTE. So certain special ed positions. So to answer your question, LTEs will not go on indefinitely.
Okay, but LTE can be after about the third Friday. There are teachers who are a balance of year LTE.
Yes.
So that's a much longer LTE than we would have done before.
Well, LTEs will range anywhere from it could range up to a full year. You know, we offer, for example, family leave of absences for people to do child rearing leave, and the position that they aren't filling for that year is guaranteed to them. So we can't hire a regular employee under contract.
But we have done conditional contracts in the past.
We don't do that.
Okay. We used to though.
Yes.
So how many teachers do we have? I guess how many staff do we have that are, I guess, these longer term LTE, not someone for a month or something? That would probably be just a.
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it was under 100 last year, but I can get you that number.
And that would include leaves for child.
Many of them are leave of absence. They could be anywhere from several months to the full year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to page 21 to 30. I had a question on page 22. It's listed undifferentiated curriculum and regular curriculum, and I'm not sure I know what the difference is between those two.
Well, it's a DPI.
Oh, it's a DPI thing? Okay.
The undifferentiated would be elementary. The regular would be secondary.
Oh, all right. It's pretty simple.
If I may add to that point on page 30, that was sort of one of my questions too for the public, where you have regular curriculum and the pie chart undifferentiated. Maybe in parentheses or some other way that could be added so people understand
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Mike?
Okay, I want to go back to page 14 and make my annual comment on the revenue limit amount. You go to the bottom, unfortunately for revenue limit purposes, the district receives same revenue limit amount per student regardless whether the cost of the student is $7,000 or $70,000. I'd like to remind everyone that the legislature has been ignoring for years Wisconsin Supreme Court case Vincent v. Voigt, which upheld the constitutionality of the revenue limit, of the revenue formula in Wisconsin, but the Supreme Court said that the legislature must account for and fund districts with that have students that are higher than the average cost, including students, ELL students, special ed students, and students from poverty. And every budget cycle, the legislature ignores that Supreme Court ruling. So that's my annual pointing out that the legislature has not followed what the Wisconsin Supreme Court said it should.
I will second that, Mike.
Chris?
As long as Mike, back to your previous section. He
All
opened
right,
the door.
all right.
The door's been opened.
You just opened that door, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Page
On
2,
page
Chris.
15, I just want to comment. Our debt limit is 4.3% of the allowable limit. Can you just amplify that a little bit for the public, Alan?
There was a calculation that for all municipalities to determine how much debt that they can have at any one time. And as you can see, that we're at 4.3% of the allowable limit. Most districts don't ever get anywhere close to being 70% or 80% or 90%, but it does. I don't have the actual dollar amount, but let me get that to you as to what our actual amount.
And to me, it somewhat begs the question to think about. Of course, you have to go to referendum to get the money. How do you think about it? With interest rates being low, to borrow more money to take care of the $40 to $50 million worth of energy projects we have.
And as long as we're on that page.
Keep breaking your own rule.
I'm breaking my own rule. This was last year's, never mind. I'll save that for another meeting. I do have a question on page 26. Looking at the Board of Education compensation. And I'm thinking that part of that fluctuates because of per diem compensation that we have that varies from year to year. Is that right? Because our salaries haven't changed over the course of that time.
Line here. Yes, it is based on, I think, is it $100 a day? Yeah,
So-
that $100 a day
Okay.
per diem is what.
That's included in there?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why it fluctuates, all right. All right, anything else Mike?
Page 20. Alan, I think you answered this, the Microsoft settlement, that's a one-year deal, the $2.9 million, that's it?
Yeah, we need to claim the dollars by November. What dollars we have left that we've already purchased all the equipment, we just have to do the claims, but that will be the end. And we will be done with the Microsoft settlement.
And then the $3.8 million increase in federal programs, is that minus the money we lost in the sequester?
The 3.8 would be the Title I program, the Title I program itself, and I don't know that lost any dollars.
Thought there was losses in Title I and special ed in the sequester.
Because I know the special ed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We did receive a reduction in Head Start. We had a
Head Start had a
sequestered amount.
reduction.
Okay.
IDA had a reduction. I don't know.
Don't know
about-
Title I?
And I can find that out.
All right, would you check that, because I thought there was some Title I reduction there also.
Mike?
Page 22, under instruction, I guess I'll bring up something that I'm sure people are thinking of. Do we have some contingency plans in place in case the legislature pulls the plug on Common Core? Which, from what I've been told, is a distinct possibility.
Hey, I think the piece that we need to recognize about Common Core is that it is a set of standards.
Right.
It is not curriculum. And our team has really been working tirelessly to add rigor and ramp up, and I know that Mr. Smith probably can speak more eloquently to this, but the reality is we will continue to stay the course. There is absolutely no reason that we see that we would change course. Obviously, we will look to improve. We see this as baseline. This is not the end of where we're going to be in terms of rigor, but when we look at it in terms of college and career and community ready, the standards very clearly align with all the meetings I've had, and Ms. Paulo sits with manufacturing and business, and if we're talking about team players and collaboration and being able to pursue inquiry and perseverance, that's what really the Common Core is about. It is a set of standards. It is not a curriculum. So we have invested a significant amount. I think the piece and challenge and opportunity is we're not being afforded a then what. We don't know what they're thinking of next, and if we have to immediately turn a corner very quickly, it could be very costly. I believe, and I see Miss Landor back there, you know, in terms of just the whole adoption of a curriculum for us and that whole writing and piece is extremely expensive for a district our size. And I don't know, Mr. Smith, I invite you to add.
I think you captured the highlights. What we're attempting to do right now as a district is create the process so that we're flexible and nimble enough to be able to respond. And as Dr. Langerfeld mentioned, it's really about having the Green Bay Area Public School System curriculum and making sure that we have increased rigor for all students to meet the board's strategic direction. So we feel good about that. I think as I mentioned to other folks, it's the what if not this, then what, and it's about how do we sustain that message and that resiliency for staff, which is a concern for us. We feel like we're moving in the right direction. The board's work has really helped us propel that, that momentum, and we want to continue moving in that direction.
And I know that's the message that Department of Public Instruction and other educational leaders gave at that Senate hearing last week, and there's another series of hearings. But there is some feelings in Wisconsin that we need to do something totally different. So I'm sure everyone here has had some sleepless nights over that, but that, I guess, we can't react to something we don't know what's going to happen, but it is a possibility.
But you're saying we have not compromised our curriculum for the sake of the Common Core
No.
standards at all?
No, because you
Got
don't.
it.
It's your own
Right.
account.
I think it's,
That's one of the misperceptions,
Right.
that it's federally imposed curriculum. And matter of fact, a lot of people are calling it Obama Core, so that's where it's coming from.
I think the piece always is that as the educators who sit around this table, we're not really willing to compromise children and their learning. And that's the piece that we can't ever lose sight of, and we wouldn't be engaging forward if we felt this was to the detriment of any child. So that's one piece. The other piece that's interesting about the Common Core, and as you dig through it and look at the history, you know that it came from a group of governors who felt very strongly that we needed to ramp up rigor.
And the business community.
And the business community and partnership. And the piece that it affords us as we look to prepare students for 21st century, we also have to recognize that the students that we're preparing into the future will be in the 22nd century as well. And the piece around that too is the recognition that this is a collective group of states. So it isn't just our students aren't learning standards that are specific and unique to Wisconsin, but more globally the United States of America. And I think that sometimes that isn't part of the Common Core discussion, but it is a critical part as well.
45 states.
It's a fair number. So I'm staying corrected if I said
All
the
right.
wrong number. So.
Andrew?
So can I just get a brief, is the, like, the worst case scenario if the legislature were to move away from Common Core, the worst case scenario we're faced with is having to realign our curriculum to some new set of standards that could emerge? Because we're not really gonna probably have to change the curriculum quite possibly at all, or if some new standards came up out of the blue, there might be a couple things. I mean, there's only so many changes you can make to what is a standard related to Algebra 2. I mean, I suppose you can, in the social sciences, you can get, legislators could certainly get a little bit more creative with it, but at the same time, and this would hit, if it were pulled, I mean, we have a functional curriculum right now, it's aligned to a widely accepted set of standards, and it wouldn't happen to us this year anyways, right? I mean, it would take just to write them, right? I mean, just for the outside body to write them. So I guess that's what I'm wondering is, if the legislature were to do this outrageous act tomorrow, in what way are we harmed by it as far as this year goes?
One of the things is it's important to note that the Smarter Balanced assessments that we've been preparing for as a point of accountability, that the state is really looking toward in terms of student accountability and school accountability and district accountability are aligned to the Common Core state standards, no longer to the WKCE standards. So we have not been actually working with students and aligning our curriculum and our instruction to less rigorous standards that are being assessed on the WKCE, but have really been moving forward because we want our students to align with the college, career, and community ready that you as the board have set for us. So one of the possibilities, depending upon what kind of accountability and assessment system that someone may or may not choose to put in place, it would be interesting to see if the standards align. And that's always the challenge and opportunity. That's why we've added the bridge math in recognition of the fact that if we didn't do that, students would not be prepared for the Smarter Balanced Assessment coming up. So that's a piece that I don't know how we hold the whole state accountable if we keep switching gears, and then what is the accountability system?
And it's interesting
concerning.
because those new assessments are fully funded in the current budget.
I think you're suggesting that our legislature deals in rationality and common sense and reason. I certainly haven't seen that. I think there are worst-case scenarios where they could try to impose a state curriculum, a la some other state, maybe Texas or whatnot. And could it be done overnight? Sure, they just boilerplate things through ALEC or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's you know, I mean, to me, it's almost like, let's keep throwing this stuff at public education, make it harder and harder for them. And to me, that's all part of the overall hidden agenda, and I don't think it's that well hidden, tax on public education.
Did you have another? I have a question on page 30. Again, it's just defining. There's 3 categories under administration: general, school building, and business. And I'm wondering what why I can guess the school building, but what falls under general administration and business administration?
Well, the school building administration certainly is the principals. Are we going back to general administration? Those would be, a lot of times it would be people within this building that may be a 239,000 function, because these are the 230s. They would be, it'd be leadership roles, but it's not a principal. I think some of the administrators within this building would be under the 230, would be under the general administration function.
And would it be operational leaders as well? It wouldn't, academic would be all? Would have instructional and?
I mean, a lot of the people in this building would be under that area. And maybe in the future, would you like to see some definitions, maybe, to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful. And then the business administration, I wondered about that too.
That would be my areas. That would be the facilities, the accounting, the payroll.
Okay.
Then where's HR, Alan?
I think they would be under the central services. That would be the function for HR. It would be the function for technology would be under the central services. And it's all based on the DPI's, you know, they have very specific state codes. I don't make these up, or I'd make them a little bit more obvious probably. But I mean, it's based on what the DPI's has an account structure that all 424 districts use.
Well, I agree with our board president. It'd be nice maybe next time a little asterisk or something someplace to define this for obviously we were having a hard time with it up here, let alone the public.
Well, this is kind of the downside of making this abbreviated, user-friendly version, because we used to get a 4,000-page budget, and we can look it up.
Well, I
Well,
think
sometimes we
when
couldn't even
created
look it up.
the shorter version, everything was taken directly from the DPI.
Right.
And we'll make some changes to that, so it will read a little bit more logically.
Or just plain English.
Did you have, go ahead, Mike.
Page 26, the line 200145, summer school teaching salaries. Now, I think this reflects good news because I know we've been increasing our offerings for students, almost double the salaries. So can somebody talk about, obviously we're adding a lot more for summer school. Somebody talk a little bit about what we've increased in the summer school because reflecting in the additional salaries. And summer school is a money maker for us also. Correct?
We'll go to the money first.
Okay, all right.
Or do you want to go to the programs first and then the money?
The summer FTE was 447 full-time equivalent students. When Mark Allen has to write a report for every class, how many kids are in there and how many minutes there are to come up with the magical number of how much do you divide to come up with one student's FTE for the whole year, and that's how that calculation is. The bad news is that the state only allows 40% of that FTE to be eligible for the revenue levy. So even though we had 447 FTE, it turned out to be 179 full-time students. So that 179 is if we had 179 students there all year long.
Right, okay.
So the 179 is added to the September count to come up with this year's count.
And that's just based on the time, the total.
Yeah.
It'd be like a full, okay.
You look at every summer
oh,
school
boy.
class and decide how many minutes they are, and then you take the number of students, multiply by the number of minutes, and then you divide by an astronomical number to come up with, and what's one FTE? How many summer school kids does it take to get to one FTE? And again, summer school, because of the 3-year rolling average, as the FTE increases, you don't get that full amount in the full year. But if you looked at it this way, if summer school ever ceased to exist, we would be getting revenue from summer school for two more years. So it may not, come out exactly, making money every year, but I mean, in the long run, it mathematically does.
And if I may add, I think the formula is a bit misleading in terms of the number of students that are engaged in the activities and the programs. And we were before the board and spoke about some summer school activities. Preble Sports Academy presented, I believe, last year. And it was the wish of the board that we continue to expand that. And we did throughout the 4 kind of quadrant structures. And I know Southwestern Preble had the most successful results, but they were pushing 1,000 kids participated in those programs, and it was a combination of sports or activities and also academics as well, which was a beautiful combination. And it's really centered around some intervention opportunity, so providing some much needed intervention for students throughout the summer, but also enrichment opportunity. And as we continue to look at summer school combined with extended learning under the umbrella of continuous school improvement, we'll continue to look at how do we expand that footprint and really get kids involved, and also having parents be part of that process as well. I think that's the next opportunity for us.
I remember that presentation because the 2 students, participants,
Yeah.
first spoke about their reading,
Yeah.
and then talked about football and weightlifting.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think the elimination of the fee made things a lot easier for the people who run summer school, and again allows that many more students to take part in the program, which then increases the revenue limit FTE amount, and I think it pretty much paid for itself by eliminating the fee.
All right, let's move to, looks like 32 to 40 or so. Actually, why don't we go 32 to, and we'll start with special education fund in the next wave. So we just have a few pages in this section if anybody has questions. No? All right, then we'll move to the special education fund. It goes through page 44. Any questions there? Head Start. That's just one page. And then the debt service fund, starting on page 49.
And again, I just point out on 49, again, as you know, in the last couple of years, we have done 3 different refundings or defeasance of debt that have saved us, over $1 million in interest.
And then the capital projects fund, again on page 53, with narrative on page 53. Food service fund. Oh, you have something? Go ahead.
No, on food service.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Page 55, we got a report, and we're talking about the number of meals decreasing by 48,000. We got a report last year, and I think a lot of that has to do with some of the federal nutrition standards, and I think a lot of students felt that they weren't getting enough to eat. So I assume that's reflected, and I thought we were going to address that. Especially in high school, are more kids leaving school to go out, or are they brown bagging it, or what is the status of our food service? I mean, I think Sue is not here anymore, obviously, she's retired, but does anybody talk about food service?
I think I could just provide you an update from Kathy. I know Kathy being new, I mean, I've met with Kathy Walker, who is our new Director of Special Education, and I think, from her perspective, I think it looks to, she's been in the culinary arts. I think a lot of it has to do with, again, trying to find meals that kids will, the kids will eat.
Aren't the feds making it a little more flexible? Didn't they change some of the rather strict guidelines that they were?
I think they lightened up on their ketchup.
I think the portions and they did.
And the calories
The calories, I think they
increased
flexed
those.
a little.
I mean, it seems counterproductive to have fewer calories in high school, and so that kids leave high school to go eat at McDonald's and Taco Bell and places where they're getting way more calories than they need.
I can't speak on behalf of any sort of study, but on behalf of the general consensus at our school, at least, was most of the athletes, especially, I think it was 850 the calorie count was last year per meal, and that just wasn't enough for a lot of our athletes, so they did go out. That's still kind of happening.
So it hasn't, you haven't seen a change this fall from last year? Or?
I wouldn't say there's a huge difference, but there are definitely some new meals coming out, so you can see that. I'm not sure if that's.
That would be an interesting topic for our intercity student council meeting.
Sure.
To talk to your fellow students about that. I'd be interested in hearing.
Kathy
Well, I think in their past history, Kathy has worked a lot with the students, with the parents, and again, she's still just trying to get
feet.
Get things, stabilized, and and now we are short. One of our dietitian position is vacant now also. So it may take us a little bit of time, but based on Kathy's previous experience in the other 3 districts that she's been in, I know she likes to meet with the principals and the students and the parents to hear, go to the PTO meetings and listen, hear what they have to say.
Andrew?
I think another thing we need to consider when we look at things like this is, and it's not something that we decided tonight, but I think we need to, instead of every time we see a new regulation that says jump, we say how high. I think we need to take a look at what's the timeline, what's the enforcement parameters. I've started asking more often, what is the actual penalty for such an action, which has ranged anything from there isn't one to complete loss of all state and federal funding. So that one, you don't want to defy that one, obviously, but I was doing some research on the food service standards, and it seemed like we just jumped on them and we're following them like immediately, where there's other districts that aren't even coming close, and it's not even at the point where there's any financial sanctions yet. So I guess I would like to see us explore that more, and certainly for some of those times we might be able to talk to Melissa about the consequences now, where before it would have been an expensive external legal analysis. But I think the food service is one case where we had a lot of people quit that program because the kids were leaving feeling hungry, and what would have happened to us if there were 10% more calories in those meals is absolutely nothing, probably, from what I had studied. I mean, eventually it's getting to the point where there's going to be some, more tighter auditing, but from what I understood, there hasn't really been a whole lot of that. And that's, this is one grant that's not going to affect our overall budget dollars, but it's right for kids to have food that is healthy but is enough, especially when we have some of the lunches, go pretty late in the day before people get lunch.
I have a follow-up question. There was a very good article on food service in the Press Gazette just in the last couple of days. And I think the messaging around the program was very important, that some of the things, it's very complex is really what it amounts to. But I want to know, as I was thinking about this and looking at the budget, now we are providing meals for after-school programs, if I'm accurate in that. Does that reflect in this budget, or is that something that will show up?
We can claim those meals.
Okay.
I mean, it's part of a federal program.
Correct. So is that number growing based on what we're seeing here?
Well, this would be last year's, and we had that after-school program last year, so
Right.
the numbers would be in here.
Okay. So, but
how what I can do is reflect what is our current number of meals that we're serving today, to see if they are.
Because I know that unfortunately we have hungry kids and they don't have much at home, and as our free and reduced population is 12,000 plus kids, and we know we have those after school programs, we have hungry kids. So I just wondered where that was. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to the trust fund. Page 59, that is. And then page 61, the community service fund. And I think Melissa was going to give us some information about the community service fund.
You recently received a letter from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, which is a public interest law firm that is run by the Bradley Foundation in Milwaukee. And the memo was, or the letter was on behalf of their client, the Brown County Taxpayers Association. And the letter provided some information to you on Fund 80, as well as made some comments and questions about our Fund 80. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of information and background as far as the information that was provided to you. As the letter indicated, Wisconsin Statute 120.13 sub 19 does establish the Community Service Fund, and I provided the statutory language for you. There's minimal guidance, and there are no state decisions, case law out there on Fund 80, so districts have relied on DPI's opinions, and I'll say that they're opinions because, again, those opinions do not carry the force of a statutory interpretation. You heard the 4 characteristics that DPI has indicated for a community service fund. Unfortunately, those characteristics slightly contradict the language of the statute, and I'm just going to point out one of the contradictions. The language of the statute says that a school board may establish and collect fees to cover all or part of the costs of such programs and services. The DPI has indicated that to fall under Fund 80, there should be an establishment of fees to cover those services. So we have a conflict in what DPI is advising, as well in conflict with the state statute. And again, there is no state case law out on what properly falls under Fund 80, so we're left to interpretation and drawing conclusions based on those two contradictory statements. The legislature has asked the DPI to look further into Fund 80, and as you know, we were required to file a report. We have filed that report. It was filed timely. It's posted on our website as was required. We submitted our report to the DPI. The DPI has compiled those reports, and I provided the link to you if you would like to review all school districts' reports that have been compiled. The DPI has not advised us that our report has been incomplete. It has not advised us that the expenditures under our Fund 80 are improper. In fact, as you review those reports submitted by other school districts, you will note that many of the funds and many of the expenditures we have in our Fund 80, other school districts are funding the exact same expenditures as well. The expenditures that we have included under our Fund 80, we believe that we can justify within the framework of the statutory language. And we will continue to fund those programs and expenditures accordingly until further guidance is provided by DPI or the legislature has clarified what properly should be included in a Fund 80. Mike?
Now, the state law, or state budget, this biennial budget requires that we freeze our funding. Is that correct? And we have done that? Correct.
The state budget did not change the statutory language as far as what is permissible under Fund 80, but it did freeze the amount we could spend based on the expenditures from 12-13, and we have done so accordingly.
Apparently there are some school districts that like skipped a year for Fund 80, and apparently there's some legislation now afoot saying, well, we shouldn't penalize those districts because they skipped a year, because if you don't have anything last year's budget for Fund 80, then you can't spend anything, but some districts had spent money the previous year, so there's some other legislation out there regarding Fund 80.
Andrew?
I just wanted to elaborate because this is something that may play out in the public too. When you say there's some conflicting analysis between what the state statute says and what DPI's advice is about fees, for example. This really isn't a conflict of equal voices. This is, the law says quite clearly that a school district may, and DPI, with no legal authority at all, is suggesting that you should. There is no must here, correct?
DPI is charged with enforcing the statute, and I must point out that there is no private right of action if someone believes that our expenditures are improper. DPI is the enforcement authority for our Fund 80. And so DPI has provided advice, correct, Andrew, and it's their job to try and provide guidance and interpretation of the statute, but they have not made rules. Sometimes agencies are given rulemaking authority under statutes. There is no rules for Fund 80. It's actually a PowerPoint presentation by the former Director of Financial Services is where this language is found. It's not in a rule promulgated by the DPI in accordance with rulemaking authority. It's in a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, so any statement about, we moved some things around, we didn't move them around because they were illegal, whatever fee situation, I want to make sure that accusations aren't leveled at the board and its members that are completely baseless. So there is the DPI does not make laws. They there are no administrative rules that apply to this, et cetera.
And we're not breaking the law.
Right, and we weren't.
Yeah.
We did not move anything out of Fund 80 because DPI told us there were things in Fund 80 that were illegal. That would be correct.
Right.
And just as a note, we expanded student after-school programming to be able to, and since we couldn't raise that limit, and we have so many schools in need of, and obviously, these are opportunities not only open to our students, but all students in our community have that option, an opportunity now to attend after-school programming outside the school day. So that's what we decided to reallocate the funds so we could service more our community after school.
Anything else, Mike?
We do need a breakdown though of the Fund 80 projects, and that's not in here. We do need that.
We have it.
It's not, it should be in our budget document though. When the public looks at that, they
Sure.
should be able to find what the individual projects are.
Mm-hmm. In the same report we sent
Yeah,
to,
right.
DPI.
Oh, sure, yeah. We can provide that easily on a one-page handout. We have it.
And then there's enrollment projections and any
If- may I
questions?
make a
Oh,
comment
go
on
ahead.
that one?
Sure.
Just so I'm clear, Melissa, you're our hired board attorney, and you've reviewed the situation. You feel what we're doing with Fund 80 at this point in time is legal.
My opinion is that the expenditures in Fund 80 are compliant with the statutory guidelines for what belongs in a community service fund.
Thank you.
But you're not the board attorney.
I'm not the board's attorney.
Right.
I work for the school district, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Just that, because, you know,
That's correct. That's
county
fine.
board had their thing, we don't have that, so.
All right, any questions on the last few pages? All right, any questions overall, or?
Next steps.
Well, next steps is we have, I would entertain a motion actually to take action on the budget today.
And we have not modified it. We asked for more information, but there've
Right.
been no modifications. So I would move that the 2013-14 budget as presented be approved.
Second.
Any final?
So this,
Andrew?
just to be clear on this approval process, we're essentially approving a document.
Right, we're
It would be
accepting this.
it would be premature to, you know, approve the numbers in it without speaking to the community, which
Right.
comes next. So I'll vote for this as a approval of the document only to move forward.
We also have to have final student counts and
Right.
all of
Yeah.
that, yeah.
And that's what I would bring at the adoption.
Okay. All right, Sandy?
Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Blacka?
Aye.
Jeffries?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Franz?
Aye. Carried 7-0. And I want to thank not only Alan, but I know a lot of work goes into this budget from a lot of other people having to report finances and their own department budgets and things. And it's a budget that we work on, as a board, we work on it all year long. We approve projects, we approve efficiencies, we look for ways to create positions because we need them with mandates coming up, and at the time that we do that, we also look for ways to create efficiencies so that we're not just adding all the time. But I know in the end, it comes down to Alan's office to make all the numbers work, so I thank you for the work you do to put this document together. We will have a public engagement session, couldn't think of what it was, next week at starting at 6 o'clock. There'll be a time for the public to speak again to us about the budget. And then we do have.
And that's right here.
And that's here, right. And then we have another meeting, when that is over, we have another meeting to follow, but we will do the engagement session first. And With that, I think we could take a break, and I'd ask to, for a motion to adjourn this special board meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, God, did we
Did
forget
we
to
vote
vote?
on the adoption?
Yeah, we did.
We did,
Yeah,
okay,
we
okay,
did.
sorry.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I thought, no, I think we did.
Yeah, I thought you did, okay, go ahead.
All right, so moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's take, we'll come back at 7:05 on that clock, if that's okay?
That's like I've lost head in your every word.
Yeah. All right, I'd like to call the work session meeting to order. We will begin with our teaching and learning work session, which will be facilitated by Katie Maloney.
Thank you, Brenda. We have one discussion item, special education service delivery model update. Claudia, are you joining us?
Yeah.
She's right there.
Oh, that's true.
She's joining us there.
It's our new round robin. It's the night of the round table.
This is the work
But our
session.
new corners have arrived.
The new
yet.
corners have not
Oh,
arrived
that's
yet.
right, yeah.
All right.
So
We
that's
haven't
one.
closed the circle.
I guess I would preclude the presentation with there's no action on, it's just more to inform you of the findings and kind of let you know where we're moving, because I know special education has been a area of interest for you, and we're looking at both an external evaluation that was completed. We also have Gwen continuing to look at some of our internal processes. So what we're sharing with you tonight is the results of the external, and then how kind of we're addressing those. So Claudia, all yours.
Thank you. I'm joined here by Brendan Whitfield, who is my supervisor for special education, educator effectiveness. And as part of his role in that, he is working on closing achievement gaps with numerous different departments. So he spearheaded a lot of this with when Dr. Fertura came in. When we asked Dr. Fertura to come in to look at our program model, she asked us for a number of information. So she asked us for a lot of data, of which Brendan provided her with. So we provided her with staffing information, disability information by race, by sex, by socioeconomic status, suspension data, achievement data, interview with special education administration, as well as 2 full days of school visits, site visits. And we got a well-rounded array of schools, elementary, middle, and high, for her to look at. And continue back and forth conversations between us and her. She was out here about 5 complete days beyond just looking and analyzing the data. She came up with a number of areas of concern, the number one of which is the lack of ownership of all students in the district, and that there seemed to be a disparity between what happens in special ed and what happens in regular ed. She came up with a number of recommendations, the first of which would be looking at a universal design for learning approach to special education services. We've begun implementing many of the ideas that she asked us to implement, and had been already implementing some of the ideas that she brought forth. One of the things we noticed was that I don't think that she was saying anything that most of us didn't already know or should have known, but I don't know that we had a game plan as to what to do with the data that she provided. So what our proposal was originally was we took her into 5 different areas that we're going to look at, and that's a cross-categorical model, looking at core instruction, dissolve the elementary self-contained program, having proactive, not reactive approaches, and ownership of all students. Those are the 5 areas of concern that she felt we should deal with. And we put those into order of priority and what are small pieces small chunks that we could do fairly quickly, and then long-range plans. So under every one of those 5 areas, we've written down some of what we've completed thus far and what we plan to complete in the next 3 years. So if you see with the cross-categorical model, if that began this year already with our program support teachers all being retrained on how that they can provide services to students in multiple different disabilities. That would cut down on a lot of travel time and thus put them in front of the children and teachers more frequently and more often and be able to support them. And we also retrained them on the criteria and continue to do that. The core curriculum, we provided a curriculum for students with significant disabilities. We did that this year. We also added a program support teacher with that. In addition to what's written in here, we've been working closely with teaching and learning so that we are embedded in the core curriculum and that our students are not getting a different curriculum unless they're getting the alternate curriculum. We've found that throughout the district, that students who were pulled out and put into small self-contained classes were getting an abbreviated version, a lower level academic version, sometimes not even anything near the same version, although they were expected to take the WKCE, and people wondered why there was an achievement gap. So we're working very closely with curriculum and instruction, or teaching and learning, excuse me. The plans for next year is to possibly add 2 staff members. There was 1 full-time staff member a number of years ago, but that position was dissolved. The position was to work directly with teaching and learning so as to have special education at the forefront of every discussion there was about achievement and curriculum and designing curriculum and implementing curriculum. Spoke to Andrea as late as last Thursday even to decide if we needed 1 staff member or 2 in the upcoming school year, and we came to the conclusion that we needed 2. I'm talking way too much. Getting way in depth. I'll skip it. The next is dissolving the elementary self-contained program. We've made some gains in doing that. We're taking some of those kids out already this year, plan to move them into traditional elementary schools next year. Really working on proactive as opposed to reactive approaches to dealing with discipline, so we're not always having to use restraint and seclusion and takedowns, and that we're really thinking about what we're doing to teach the children in a different manner before it escalates. And then owning of all students, Mark has agreed to let us have monthly meetings with the administrators. We let that go for the first month because we had so much other business to take care of, but we're assured that we're going to be moving forward to that, so the principals are continuously getting information on special education and the ownership of special ed. Mark's done that by putting out updates in the principal's bulletins specific to special ed. We're moving to we have an autism specialist now and a CDS specialist, I think I mentioned that, cognitive disability severe, so that's students with significant disabilities. We plan to develop fidelity of implementation checklists for the instruction that is going on within the self-contained classrooms and general classrooms that have students with disabilities in it. And the big thing that we're really doing is we are involved in a pilot this year. 3, 4, 5. 5 of our schools have agreed to be part of a Universal Design for Learning pilot that is an ongoing cohort throughout the year. They spend this entire year learning about Universal Design for Learning and then develop an action plan for the next 2 to 3 years, hoping that they can be our stars and the sites that people look to for, so we build capacity internally. So the long and the short of it is we know that we have a lot of work to do. I think we've done a lot of work in a little amount of time, and we're up for the challenge.
I think Claudia probably said it best in the first part when it mentions that the only way we're going to close the achievement gap, which is one of our largest achievement gaps, is in special education, is to make sure that our special education students are included in the Common Core standards, whatever we're using for through teaching and learning, and that those students are included in the classroom, not pulled out of the classroom and delivered a different curriculum. So that's the main focus, is to try to figure out how to make sure we're servicing those students universally, and then differentiating to make sure that we're meeting individual needs, versus looking at individual needs and using something else. Otherwise, we'll never close that achievement gap. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be students who are going to need services outside of the classroom, but that should be minimal.
Mike?
I think this really is an excellent report, and I think we're going in the right direction. I think it addresses what a lot of us have heard for years about the lack of alignment between special ed and our regular education program. My question is does or has IDEA ever offered us any guidelines on what we're doing or where we're going, and does this align with IDEA, if at all, or does IDEA just say, here's 18% and, you know, good luck?
There are a lot of mandates within IDEA, but they can be construed in many different ways. So they talk about least restrictive environment, and that special education was never meant to be a place, it was meant to be a service. And I think along the way, we've turned it into a place rather than a service. And there's been a lot of push in the last 10 years in particular to move it back to being a service, depending upon what that student's need is, and having that continuum of services. I think our continuum of services has a lot of chops in it here in Green Bay, and we need to make it a more smooth continuum of service with the ultimate goal for most students to be back into the general curriculum in a general education classroom as much as possible. For some students, that's not going to be possible, but for the majority of them, that ought to be possible. And when we graduate kids in high school and they're still in team-taught or self-contained classes, getting a curriculum that's not at that grade level, then we're going to be graduating children that are not college, community, and career ready. So I think it gives us a framework to go by. It doesn't give you specifics because everything in special ed is so individualized.
Okay, thank you.
DPI's answer to everything, it depends.
I think the piece to remember is that a lot of this takes professional learning.
Right.
And that's probably not something that we've done a lot of with our staff. So when we say that we're not owning all of our children, it's not an intentional, I'm not dealing with that, or I don't want these. It's more the professional learning that we need to do with our staff so they understand how to include them in the classroom. And that's, I think, the piece when Claudia and I talk, when we look at, to me, that's where we get our biggest bang for the buck, is making sure that we're providing the professional learning that our staff and administrators need to understand how to do that, not just to say, you have to do it. So that, I think, is a big piece that's probably not in here as much, but we really have to plan that out.
Right. And that's why we're starting with the principals, having us on the agenda once a month so we can build their professional capacity around students with special education needs, so they can therefore help to build their teachers' professional growth around that area. Along with that, when we've had professional developments and as we move forward with them, we've made sure that they were always special ed and regular ed teachers coming to our trainings. We have a pilot going on with autism. They could not do it unless it was special ed and regular ed. The UDL pilot had to have special ed and regular ed. So we're really looking at a commitment of a community of teachers and a community of learners.
Any other? Andrew?
This autism specialist, this is a new position, or it's just, I mean, we had, how many full-time equivalent people do we have that are autism specialists of some kind? Just the one?
We have one. Lisa Dillhunt has been our specialist, but she's had to do IEP identification and testing, which has limited her ability to provide the support as our students with autism population continues to grow. So we've, in the past school year, we've trained another person how to really look at the IEPs for students with autism and deal more with the IEP issues. So we didn't add a position per se, but we just reallocated them.
We shifted the responsibilities of the IEP piece to where it probably should have been all along, so that she can focus on the autism piece.
Okay, so we're not going from 1 to 2, we're going from half to 1, but it's still an improvement, something like that.
Yes. Well,
not to suggest that Lisa was only working full-time. She was probably working about 1.6, 1.7 jobs, but we're moving.
And she still is.
We would still certainly could use, with the number of students with autism, I was, I'm I'm not happy with the 2 or the 1.5, whatever we're calling, because it's still too low. But it's, you know, the more time we can have our specialists with, you know, with teachers versus, you know, handling important but routine tasks of IEP management. That's a good start. So the autism pilot that we're involved in, that doesn't. What is that? Just 50 words or less? What is that? The pilot, whatever this pilot thing is that we're doing?
Yes. A group of teachers and administrators participated through the summer with the CESA, I think it's CESA 6. CESA 6, and they come together, they learn about autism, students with autism and how to deal with them for 3 full days, and how they can collaborate and how they can have teamwork and what the behaviors, the meaning behind the behaviors of students with autism, because it's not the same as students with behavioral disabilities. And they have ongoing cohorts throughout this entire school year where they leave once a month,
I think they have a couple meetings. We can get those dates for the board, and I don't have them in front of me, so I apologize. And it's really about creating that partnership between general education and special education. So being that our students with autism, that population continues to grow, and we want to continue to meet the needs of our students, that we can empower our general education staff to meet those needs in the core curriculum and the core environment. So it's really about giving those tools and kind of those techniques to meet the needs of our students. And then Lisa kind of comes in as a consultant to kind of role model those things and then to also help troubleshoot those. So we're spreading the knowledge of the professional learning.
And we also have consultants from CESA 6 that CESA 6 hired that are coming in throughout this school year to help to build that capacity.
Thank you.
And I think the question then is, how do you convey that to the rest of the building? So as a former middle school building principal, I would have those folks come in and meet with my staff to share that information and do that professional learning with the larger group, so that it continues to spread, not just to those trained, but throughout.
Right, and that is the goal of the project too, is that they, after they've done this for a year, they become trainer of trainers, so that they can then go out and go to other buildings and help them assess what's going on and how they can build the capacity to ensure least restrictive environment for these students across the district. So we don't always have to rely on people from the outside to come in and give us support. We start to build it within.
Chris?
Thank you. Part of what Kim alluded to about training for regular education staff. Beyond that, though, if you're putting more of our special education population back in regular classes, in my mind, there's still going to have to be support within those classes for those students. Otherwise, we're doing a disservice to the students with disabilities and those without. Our teachers have their hands full. You put 3, 4, 5 youngsters in there with special needs that demand more attention, then there's less attention for the other students, which is going to create a backlash by parents, as we've already noticed in some other behavioral issues. So that's my only admonishment to what you're doing.
Right.
And it's finding that balance between making sure our regular education staff are knowledgeable and know how to deal with the issues that arise, yet how do we provide the support to those students so that they're able to move forward in the classroom. So I think it's a balance. I would say what we've probably not had is the ability to have our regular education teachers feel confident and comfortable in dealing with some of the situations that arise, which should result in less support being necessary, but it doesn't mean you can take away everything. So.
Which 5 schools are in your Universal Design Learning cohort?
Right now we have East, Aldo, Edison, Lombardi, and Kennedy. That's 5, right?
And it was a voluntary thing. I mean, we tried to touch all the levels, but we wanted to make sure it was voluntary. And so we had the staff buy-in. Then we had a little difficulty when the principal of Lombardi became. So we had to go for that buy-in.
Actually, just met with Jim today.
All right, the buy-in continues.
He's got buy-in.
All right, good, good. Good to hear. Any other questions or comments? And just for everyone, please don't feel compelled to apologize for not having dates or specific numbers that we ask. I mean, we ask information, but there are ways that, you know, if you don't have it on the top of your head, that's fine, just get it to us in the update, or there are mechanisms that you can get back to us. Don't feel badly that you don't have everything in front of you.
I just have one comment.
Yes.
I feel that the work that Claudia has done and provided the leadership is moving us a step forward with our students. And I think that as time has come forward, we always learn more about how to better address meeting needs of students. And so I want it to be said that when things were put in place, it was the best we know how, but as we move and progress forward, we know differently. And so it's important to keep moving and progressing as part of continuous improvement. So we will service the students as best we know how, but I appreciate your work on this, and Brendan, and also Kim and Barbara, I know, has been part of this conversation as well. So
And the severity of the disabilities has really greatly increased in the last number of years too. So as that changes, we have to change our game plan. So.
And I think from a district perspective, we need to be all-inclusive as well. We can't tell our buildings to be all-inclusive when at a district level. We need to realize that special education, alternative education, need to be a part of teaching and learning discussions, just as GT does. You know, and they can't operate their department in isolation, so that's a shift for us. We have to be all-inclusive too when we're making decisions about curriculum and assessment, and make sure we have everybody at the table. So we've been working on that as well.
And this is helpful for us as board members to have you just bring this information to us as information, so that down the road, when there are budget requests or governance requests, we have some groundwork, we've got some background on this.
And we find no irony in what was just said with earlier buying a building for housing certain kids, huh?
Yeah, well, I think,
we have
to me, it's a continuum of service. You know, we made decisions tonight that kind of purchase continuum of service on both ends, and then what's the continuum that falls in between there? So it's like RTI.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, are there any other matters allowed by law? Good. Hearing none, that concludes our work session.
All right, thank you, Katie. Next we'll move to organizational support work session. That'll be facilitated by Andrew Becker.
All right. Okay, so under the discussion items, we don't have any under business and finance. We'll move forward to the human resources staffing update.
Yes, I'd just like to give you an update on where we are with our employment. And we have 37 open positions, which is, the majority of them are not teachers. We only have one elementary classroom teacher position open right now. And that was due to a recent title funding availability and an internal transfer of a staff member. That position is posted. We have a part-time FIA teacher opening, a special ed opening, part-time French, a response to intervention specialist, and a speech and language pathologist, and a secondary science opening. So 7 teachers in all. We have 3 noon hour supervisors, 3 monitors for security staff, 6 food service, 4 clerical, 5 paraprofessionals, 7 maintenance, and an avid tutor coordinator. So that brings us up to 37. And there are activities in place to fill all those jobs. So a lot of progress, especially in the teaching area over the month.
All right. Any questions on that?
Oh, just Mike. Just I guess a position that probably isn't in your at Washington. Are we going to provide Travis with any temporary assistance? I mean, we're losing a full-time administrator there.
Yes. Mark?
Yeah, Travis and I have already begun to meet and to plan out what that transition would look like from a short-term, immediate, type of plan, and then also moving forward from a more longer term process. So I've been over there a number of times, pitching in and helping out as well. So everyone's on board, ready to help out and assist, but certainly something more stable. Hopefully by the end of the week, we would have that short-term piece.
So we'll have another person in there helping. Okay, good.
Michelle's going 1 week, I'm going
Oh, good. Good. We'll just
We have
rotate.
multiple former middle school
That's
principals
great.
to slot in, and
Never
we've
a dull
closed
moment in middle
achievement
school.
gaps,
Yeah.
and we're ready to go.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right. Thank you. Then we'll move ahead to the change to the table of organization and student information manager job description.
You received a copy of the student information manager job description. This is a new position. Infinite Campus is our student database system, and a lot of what we rely on in terms of staffing, employment is housed in that system. It's a very, very important system. So it's really important that the data that is in there is accurate. And when Diane came on board, she reviewed the position, the need for this new position, and realized, I think as we all did, that we need one person who really has responsibility for the integrity of that student database system. So with that, she worked with me to create this position. We brought it to the cabinet, and we all agreed that this is a vital position. This would be a management position. It is 12 months. It would be an in-person who would report directly to Diane. And this person would also supervise the two individuals and central registration, and then the central scheduler, stage reporting coordinator. There's quite a bit of responsibility outlined in the essential functions that I won't review at this point because I know you've looked at that. But if this is approved by the board, we would immediately post it, and it would be posted internally and externally, because ideally I believe we would look for somebody who has worked with Infinite Campus. That's going to be very important.
Okay, Michelle?
Hey, and this is probably in the last several weeks, you come to realize at different points that single source of truth is critical. And as we are looking for accurate data for Third Friday count, looking for accurate data to ensure that we are accurately predicting truancies and so forth, what happened was, if you think about it, there was someone put into a dual role, central registration and systems information manager. That's what was intended when this began, but you start to look at the magnitude of both job descriptions, and to have one individual serve in both roles clearly has not been successful because of the magnitude of and scope of the work. This particular individual is critical, and this position is critical if we are going to have a single source of truth. And as you well know, when you read in the paper, I can't remember when that was, that they said 40-some% of our students are habitually truant. It's because we had inaccurate data submitted to the state, and it's through no fault. That was a role and function of moving from Zangle to Infinite Campus. And if there's nobody on point to flag it and monitor it and make that their job, we will continue to have data that, with all great intentions and people working very hard, will not be accurate. And in this day and age, with the accountability the way it is, I don't think we can continue to risk that and have the stresses and headaches and multiple people working behind the scenes to get accurate data. There has to be someone on point.
Anything else? Either the job description or the position itself? Okay, we'll move that forward. And next we have the Human Resource Specialist job description.
With the resignation of our level 5 clerical who moved to teaching and learning, we have the ability to reorganize some of the functions again in HR. So what you have before you is something that is new to the district, which is a professional level individual who is not a manager, but is salaried and would be non-contracted, call that an employee at will, and would be assigned professional level functions in HR. This particular position, if I could break it down into two main components, it would be looking at managing family and medical leave and other leaves, as well as doing employment work. If this position would be approved, there would be different pieces of work that would come off of the executive assistant's plate, and then what we would do for some of the clerical work is we're going to go to more of a system where people call in when they call in to HR. They'd be routed to the person rather than having receptionists answer the phone all the time. So you'd get a telephone pretty. And that's what most departments do these days because it's expensive to have somebody answering the phone all day long. And the idea is to get the individuals to the right person when they call in, so that will save time. Because it's brand new, we thought, I thought it would be good to, just be very clear about the intention. There are perhaps other areas within this district where professional level people who are not managers but are salaried might have a role. It's very common in some of the business support areas to do that.
And so there's no overtime, is that accurate?
That's right, there's no overtime. The person works a 40-plus hour week, and they could be full or part-time, you can have salaried part-time. I'd be requesting a 1.0 FTE for this position, and it would be posted internally and externally, but the idea is to bring somebody in who has human resource experience, who understands the employment functions, so there doesn't have to be a lot of additional training. They would learn things that we need to know for the district, but not necessarily the HR theory and practice.
Questions? I just have one. Given that it's not supervisory in nature, what is it about the position that does put it into a salary category? Because we don't have, usually it's...
It's because there's a body of knowledge for human resources that puts it into a professional level role. For example, you might have an accountant, not this job, but in the field of accounting and finance, you often will hire people who have associate or bachelor's degrees, and they can be exempt. It's also the independent nature of the decision making, that they use that body of knowledge to make decisions that are somewhat independent. Doesn't mean they don't collaborate, but that they can, for example, set pay. They can look at your pay structure and set pay without checking with the manager all the time. This person would make decisions on approving family and medical leave, for example. So they have to know FMLA law. Not that if there's a complex one, they would collaborate with someone in the department, but they would make those independent decisions. Those are just two examples.
Okay. Anything else on that? Then we'll move ahead to the student learning advocate job description.
This is a position that we are recommending as an interim to basically determine if this is something we would want to replicate in other years. The student learning advocate is actually a position that Michelle talked with us about, that she had experienced experience with the Hennepin. And the person who's really responsible, as stated in the position purpose, connecting students and families with school resources, advocating for parents and students, getting to know students who are at risk, and before they have issues, intervene so that we prevent issues from developing. Is that how you would?
Yeah, I think it really aligns with a position that Barbara had in place that I think the funding is going away at. What is it called?
It was the engagement resource coordinators,
Yeah.
ERCs.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. What it affords us is the opportunity to put additional student supports in place. And because you don't need a teaching license to fulfill this, you have a greater pool of folks to bring in and can also look for a broader, more diverse group of individuals who might fill those positions. So we may not always, as we look to bringing in mirrors for our kids, and grown-ups who serve in schools that look like our kids, we don't always have a real broad pool of diverse candidates, but this can afford us that if we move down that direction. But we thought it would be appropriate to redefine the job and pilot it and see if it was successful, and then look to see if it can be part of the student support service function in our schools and afford those that.
Mark worked with me on the job description. We had really gotten a copy of the job description from Anoka Hennepin and took concepts, ideas from that as well as our own. This individual would also be exempt a salaried position, so no overtime. This position would supervise the monitors, and we would, the first individual would be at Edison Middle School. Joe Weeble also added some of his expectations to the job description as well. And there is an individual who functions at a very high level who we would be recommending if this was to be approved in the future. I don't know, Mark, if you have anything that you wanted to add.
No, I think the job description captures really the proactive approach versus a reactive approach, and I think that's the goal and the aim is to work with the students on the front end versus on the back end of trying to make up for some lost time and instructional minutes.
And then this person's also right now a monitor at
Yes.
Edison, and you would not replace that
Yes,
monitor position. Right.
That's correct.
All right. Anything else on that? Okay, that concludes the regular agenda. Are there any other matters allowed by law?
Andrew, a sentence or two to let the board know that as we speak, Kate Burgess is being honored by the Chamber. She's receiving the Athena Award. She has been a tireless supporter of the Green Bay School District, and we've been the recipient of her largesse and generosity, and I wanted the board to be aware that she's been recognized by the community.
Can we show the video we showed this morning? We do.
This is where under,
Yes, we
Winners
do.
Lebanon. Yeah, on the
It's still
agenda.
on here.
Can we show a video in that?
Yeah, this is the last meeting that will be
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Okay.
So the video's okay?
So
Yeah.
the video is grandfathered in.
All right.
Yes.
Last, just got in by
It
the
is-
skin of its
as-
teeth.
Yeah, as the board has been out and asking for the opportunity to bring something forward for the community, different groups that you speak to and so forth, this might be something we'd like to share. It's also something we'd like to put on the district website and share with our teachers and staff.
My teachers really, they're so helpful. Like, they actually, it seems like, you know, they really want me to pass my class, and they really want me to get the grade I want. And there's teachers too that, like, I'm just like, wow, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? Teachers are cool and do stuff fun. You're just like, okay, school. You wake up, you're ready to go. You're like, come come on, Mom, I don't want to be late because you have to get to school and like you have a fun time at school. The teachers will go one by one and help you using your learning skill and help you with what you know.
The teachers help you out when you need help with homework.
Love the teachers. My kids are able to excel in everything that they do. The teachers are there to support them, and that's what I love. They go above and beyond.
My teachers are caring and always trying to make me do my best.
No, it's not a school. It's like a family. You get to know the teachers, and they all are so friendly and they listen.
Everybody was welcoming to me. Everyone was talking to me. It was such an easy transition. I'm so happy I did it.
Maestros, escuela, deportes, atención, siempre tienen el tiempo para hablar cuando ellos lo necesitan.
They're both really, really smart kids and they need to be challenged, and you know, the schools have given them that opportunity.
I like that there's lots of choices because I love to learn.
Every day I'm excited to learn.
I like my school because of all the programs that they have.
That's very comforting for a parent to know that he's being appreciated for what he is, and meanwhile he's learning, he's being challenged, and academically he didn't have the high class intelligence, something he can be proud of.
Knowing our town is safe at school.
I like the Green Bay Public Schools because they're so diverse. They get to learn so many other kids in their classes from different backgrounds in there, so they get to learn their values.
And both of my children are now very happy to be there, and they shine in Green Bay.
There's a lot of different culture that comes together in the schools, and it's good for our kids to be able to be exposed to the differences and learning to accept the differences.
We love the schools. I wanted to move, I will not move.
Come for a day and chat. Have your child chat with someone. Because I've seen that done, and ask for some names of parents to talk to.
There's tons of diversity, kids from everywhere.
It's just cool that our kids' schools reflect the actual world we live in.
I'm always excited to learn more things and just get a bigger brain.
It's just been an overall really amazing experience, and there's never been a time where I felt like I couldn't go to someone, or even if I had a bad day, there would always be someone that could help me.
I don't think that people around here really appreciate how good it is up here.
We've had great, amazing teachers every year for our children that really love them and really go up above and beyond.
I think that if anybody could just give a day to any public school, especially mine. I can't say enough about it, I love it.
I'm really, really gonna miss my teachers and the staff. I think Green Bay Schools is a good experience for me. They treat us like family.
So our experience in the Green Bay Public School has been fantastic.
My favorite day at school is every day.
Is that Alex's video?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that Alex's video?
That's Alex's
Yeah.
video.
Yes,
So
so
what do we do with that? this all started from our little voucher fight, to be honest with you. And I had suggested that we had talked about it, Marshall and Jennifer and Amanda, and I had talked about that, and I had suggested Alex Zacharias, of course, he owns his own business here in the community, so.
So what do we do with this?
That's good.
Who are
And it's
we
3
showing
minutes.
this to?
Right for YouTube.
Right, it's gonna go on YouTube and the district website and social media, so we'll share with the parents and such. But also, I do believe, we need to reach out to the neighborhood groups, the realtors, new parents, prospective parents. So this and the education customization video, which is in the process of being produced, we have those 2 videos to work from. And I have Jamie updating the civic groups list as we speak, so there's a lot of opportunities for sharing.
Very good.
It might be possible to also encourage us and staff members to put it on their Facebook page and really spread that way too.
Sure. Let's go viral. Okay.
Could we tweet it out?
All right,
That's my problem, I tweet.
we do have a closed session, so I will read the motion for that. Closed session has been scheduled for Monday, October 7th, 2013, immediately following the adjournment of the special board meeting and work session meetings, which began at 5:15 p.m. at the district office building, room 337, pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851C. Considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.851F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, to wit, personnel matters. The meeting will begin in open session to consider the appropriate motion for a closed session so provided by law.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Sandy?
Jeffries? Aye. Maloney? Aye. Warren?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Franz? Aye. Wagner?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Carried 7-0. We'll begin across the hall.
What's your tomorrow?
For more information or to obtain copies of this program, contact CISA 7 Interactive Learning Services at 920-465-5218.